The night so often dismissed as a mere pause in the passage of time, a necessary backdrop to our waking lives, held a power far beyond our modern understanding. For the ancient civilizations, the night was not a void, but a realm of untold mystery, a living force that held sway over their destinies. In the vast deserts of Mesopotamia, under the ever-watchful sky, the people did not look up at the heavens with indifference. They saw a universe alive, pulsing with energy and meaning. The moon, the stars, the darkness itself were not silent spectators of the world. Below they were gods, guardians, and guides. In those early days, before the world became dominated by the harsh light of modernity, the night was a source of awe. The Mesopotamians saw the moon as a divine figure, Sin, the god of the moon, who governed the night sky with silent authority. His light was not just a reflection of the sun, but a power in its own right, weaving its influence into the fabric of their lives. The stars were no less significant. They were not distant, cold points of light, but divine messengers, celestial beings that could guide, warn, and reveal the will of the gods. To the ancient eyes, the night was not something to fear, but something to revere, a stage where divine forces played their eternal dramas. And it wasn't just in Mesopotamia. Across the ancient world, the night was woven into the very rituals of life. In Egypt, the goddess Nuit, who personified the night, was said to embrace the entire cosmos in her dark protective arms. Nuit's domain was not something to dread. It was a place of mystery, a boundless sky where the stars themselves danced in an eternal, cosmic ballet. The Egyptians saw in the night a reflection of the divine order, where time itself stood still, and the boundaries between the mortal and the immortal blurred. The moon was not simply a pale orb above them. It was a sacred symbol of regeneration, a cyclical force that governed life, death, and rebirth. Every full moon was a signal that the gods were active, watching, and guiding. These ancient rituals and beliefs were not mere superstition or idle fantasy. The rituals held meaning that connected people to something far greater than themselves. When the Babylonians held their grand festivals to honor the moon, it wasn't just for a display of devotion, it was a deep acknowledgement of their dependence on the celestial forces. They recognized that the night could offer them not only protection, but also the keys to understanding their own existence. Even the ominous events, like eclipses, were not seen as bad omens in the modern sense, but as divine signs, mysterious messages from the gods themselves. An eclipse, for the ancients, was not a mere celestial event. It was an interruption in the divine rhythm, an invitation to pay attention, to listen to the cosmos. In that brief moment of darkness, the boundaries between worlds seemed thinner, and the power of the gods felt closer. The night, then, was not something to be feared or pushed aside. It was a space of reverence, of power, of mystery. The ancients did not view the dark as something inherently evil or dangerous, as many would come to do later in history. No, they saw it as a realm that bridged the physical and spiritual, a time when the gods could speak, when the unseen forces could be felt. It was as though the veil between the worlds was thinner at night, allowing the ancient peoples to communicate with forces beyond their comprehension. The night was a time to reflect, to worship, and to discover the secrets of existence itself. And yet, over time, this deep respect for the night, this understanding of its hidden, divine power, began to fade. What was once sacred was slowly erased. But before that shift began, the night had reigned supreme in the hearts of those who understood its mysteries. These celestial rituals, once central to human existence, would soon be lost to time, buried beneath the rise of empires and new religions. But even as the ancient night beliefs were pushed into obscurity, a shadow of them would remain buried in the whispers of the past, waiting for those curious enough to listen. What happened next, as new forces began to reshape the world, is where the true story of the night's erasure begins to unfold. And as we look deeper into that history, we'll find that the night's power wasn't simply forgotten. It was deliberately suppressed, its mysteries buried beneath the weight of new belief systems. But the echoes of that lost knowledge still linger in the corners of our minds, waiting to be rediscovered. The night, often seen as a time of stillness and mystery, was never just the absence of light. To the ancients, it was far more than darkness. It was a living, breathing force, rich with symbolism and divine power. Across cultures, the night wasn't simply feared. It was revered as a sacred space where the veil between the divine and the mortal was thinnest. Darkness, in this context, was not evil. It was a fertile ground for transformation, a place where creation itself could begin. The ancient peoples didn't just look at the night as a time to rest or hide from the world. They saw it as a space where the gods could speak and guide, a realm where the mysteries of existence could be uncovered. In Egypt, Nuit, the goddess of the night, embodied the boundless sky that covered the earth. Nuit was not merely the absence of daylight, but the womb of creation itself. The stars scattered across her dark body were seen as her children, symbols of the endless possibilities contained within the night. To the Egyptians, the night was not something to dread, but something to embrace, an expansive, infinite force that governed the very cycles of life. Nuit's reign was eternal, and her night was one of both protection and regeneration. It was during the hours of darkness that the divine forces came closest to human life, offering wisdom and guidance through the celestial movements in the sky. Nuit herself was both the darkness and the light, the keeper of time and the protector of souls. Across the seas in Greece, the goddess Nyx held dominion over the night, but she was no less powerful. Nyx was a primordial deity, older than most other gods in the Greek pantheon, and she was not a figure of malice or fear, but of mystery and depth. Nyx was the embodiment of the unknown, the primal darkness that existed before the birth of all things. She was the force that allowed for creation to emerge from the void. In her presence, the boundaries between light and darkness, life and death, were fluid. Nyx was a goddess who, though veiled in shadows, held the keys to the universe's most profound secrets. The Greeks did not see the night as something to fear, but as a space where the forces of change could happen, where the soul could be reborn, renewed, or even transformed. Night was not a time for stagnation or surrender, it was a time for movement, change, and growth. It represented the cycle of life and death, the continual ebb and flow of existence itself. In many traditions, the night symbolized the passage from one state of being to another, a process of constant renewal. Just as the day fades into night and the night into day, so too did the ancients see life itself as a cycle, one that was often most transformative when shrouded in darkness. The night was not just a space of rest, it was the crucible in which new life and new ideas could take shape. Just as seeds grow in the dark earth, so too did human thoughts, spiritual ideas, and transformation find fertile ground in the mysterious embrace of the night. Death, too, held its place in the symbolism of the night. In the Egyptian worldview, for instance, the journey to the afterlife was traversed through darkness, through the realm of Nuit. The souls of the dead passed through the underworld in the hours of night, before being reborn to the light of the sun. Night represented a liminal space, a threshold where life and death met, where the past and future collided. It was in the night that the most profound questions of existence were asked, and sometimes the answers were revealed. What the ancients understood, what they embraced, was that the night was not an absence, but a presence. It was a divine space, full of potential, full of change. The darkness was not a void, but a realm of possibility. It was in the night that God spoke, and that mortals were able to touch the divine. The night was the space where the soul could expand, where the mysteries of the universe could be unraveled, and where transformation could begin. It was not to be feared, but embraced. As time passed, however, this reverence for the night would not go unchallenged. New forces would rise, forces that sought to reshape the understanding of the night, and in doing so, they would begin to suppress the old beliefs. What was once revered as sacred would soon be condemned as dark, dangerous, and forbidden. The clash between these ancient beliefs and the rising powers of empires and religions would reshape the world forever. But in the shadows of this transformation, the symbols of the night would remain hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. The night, with all its mysteries and divine power, would not be so easily erased. When the world fell silent and darkness draped the earth like a thick velvet curtain, that was when the most sacred of ceremonies took place. The night, with its quiet majesty and veiled mysteries, was not simply a time for sleep, it was a time for spiritual awakening, for reaching beyond the visible world to touch the divine. In the shadow of the moon and under the glittering blanket of stars, ancient civilizations performed rituals that connected them to unseen realms. It was a time when gods walked among mortals, and the veil between the living and the dead grew thin. To the ancient Sumerians, Egyptians, and Mayans, the night held a profound significance. It was a sacred time, charged with the power to reveal hidden knowledge, to communicate with ancestors, and to commune with gods. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians practiced rituals that were deeply connected to the phases of the moon. The moon, with its cyclical nature, was a powerful symbol of the divine order. To them, the night was more than a celestial event. It was a divine presence, a force to be respected and revered. The most sacred of ceremonies were often conducted under the cover of night, in the stillness of the dark hours. One of the most profound rituals was the sacred marriage ceremony, held each year in honor of the goddess Inanna, the queen of heaven and earth. This was no ordinary festival, it was a union between the earthly king and the goddess herself, symbolizing the balance of life and death, creation and destruction. During this ritual, the king would enter the temple in darkness, where he would perform sacred acts that ensured the fertility of the land and the favor of the gods. The connection between the king, the goddess, and the divine forces of the night was not just symbolic, it was believed to be the key to the kingdom's prosperity. The night was seen as a realm of fertility and transformation, where divine forces could descend and take root. In Egypt, the night was equally revered, and temples dedicated to the gods of darkness and the moon flourished. The Egyptians believed that the night held the power of renewal and transformation. The goddess Nut, the embodiment of the night sky, was a protector of the universe, whose dark body stretched across the heavens. In her sacred temples, rituals were conducted during the hours when the stars ruled the sky. The moon god Khonsu, often depicted as a young boy with the power to heal and protect, was another figure whose worship peaked during the night. Priests would gather under the moonlight to perform sacred chants and offerings. These nocturnal rituals were believed to connect them to the god's power, offering both protection and insight into the unseen realms. The darkness was not a barrier, but a gateway to divine understanding. The Egyptians knew that the night was a time when the gods were closest to human affairs, and it was only in these quiet, sacred hours that one could truly hear the whispers of the divine. Further across the oceans, in the jungles of Central America, the Mayans practiced their own set of nocturnal rites. In Mayan culture, the night was intricately tied to their understanding of time and the cosmos. They believed that the night was governed by the underworld gods, who held sway over the forces of death and rebirth. The Mayans worshipped the night through elaborate ceremonies held in the dead of night. Under the blanket of stars, priests would perform divination rituals, using the dark to interpret the will of the gods. The Mayans, known for their advanced knowledge of astronomy, believed that the positions of the stars, the moon, and the planets all held messages for humanity. The night sky was their celestial guide, a map that led them through the mysteries of life and death. Their temples were designed to align with the stars, allowing them to track celestial movements and perform rituals at specific times when the gods were said to be most receptive. These ceremonies were often accompanied by offerings and sacrifices, which were made in the belief that they would appease the gods and ensure harmony in the world. As the night unfolded, so too did the opportunities for profound spiritual connection. The ancients did not view the darkness as something to fear or avoid, but as a realm where divine mysteries could be unveiled. Rituals held during the night were not just acts of worship, they were moments of communion with the divine, an attempt to understand the deeper forces that shaped the world. It was believed that during these sacred hours, when the world was still, the gods were closest, and the secrets of the universe were most accessible. The stillness of the night was a perfect backdrop for deep reflection and divine revelation. These practices, though vast and varied across cultures, shared a common theme. The night was a sacred time, a space where the unseen was made visible. It was a realm where divinity could be experienced directly, and where humanity could seek guidance, transformation, and understanding. It was a time of powerful rituals, those performed in the quiet shadows of the night that shaped the fates of kings, the prosperity of lands, and the lives of individuals. But as the centuries passed, the practices that once defined the night began to fall into disfavor. With the rise of new empires and religions, the sacred rituals of the night would soon be lost to time. What was once revered would become feared, and the gods of darkness would be pushed into the forgotten corners of history. The next chapter of our story will uncover how these ancient night beliefs were systematically erased, and the consequences of that cultural shift. But even as the rituals of the night were silenced, their echoes would continue to resonate in the shadows, waiting to be rediscovered by those willing to listen. As the mighty empires of Rome and Persia expanded across the known world, sweeping over the lands that once flourished with ancient night rituals. The very fabric of spiritual life was altered. What had once been a sacred reverence for the mysteries of the night was now seen as a dangerous, primitive relic. These great powers, eager to consolidate their rule and unify their vast territories, sought to impose a single worldview that would bind all their subjects under one banner, one set of beliefs. The night, long revered as a divine realm, now stood at odds with the ideals of empire. For centuries, ancient cultures like the Sumerians, Egyptians, and Greeks had nurtured a deep connection with the night. The moon, the stars, and the darkness itself were not only celestial phenomena, they were sacred, imbued with divine power. But as the Roman Empire spread, bringing with it an ever-expanding desire for unity, those ancient practices were branded as foreign, superstitious, and dangerous. Night deities, once worshipped in sacred temples, became the stuff of heresy. In their place, the emperor and the imperial gods were elevated to divine status, and the old ways were slowly, systematically driven underground. The Roman Empire, in particular, was a juggernaut of change. Under the leadership of emperors like Augustus, Rome sought not just to conquer lands, but to conquer belief itself. Pagan gods, including those associated with the night, were cast aside in favor of a singular vision of order and power. The great temples of the ancient gods, which had once been filled with rituals honoring the mysteries of the night, were replaced with temples dedicated to the imperial cult worship of the emperor as a god himself. The night no longer belonged to the gods of old. It was now the dominion of the state, and any practice that veered from this singular path was seen as subversive, a challenge to the empire's control over its people. This clash between the expansive might of empire and the spiritual reverence of the night was not simply a matter of politics. It was a cultural struggle for the soul of the ancient world. The night, once a time when the divine could speak through dreams, omens, and celestial alignments, was gradually stripped of its spiritual significance. What had once been a realm of connection to the gods was now seen as a space for superstition, something to be eradicated to maintain the empire's stability. The temples dedicated to night gods were either repurposed for imperial worship or destroyed outright. And as empire building advanced, the sacred rituals of the night slowly faded into the shadows, dismissed as relics of a primitive past. The ancient practices of divination and moon worship, once central to many cultures, were now outlawed. To consult the stars, to seek guidance from the divine forces of the night, was no longer a respectable endeavor, it was a challenge to the state's authority. The rise of empire necessitated the erasure of older, more localized spiritual practices, including those that revered the night. In their place, the emperor and the imperial gods became the new divine figures, governing not just the material realm, but the spiritual one as well. This tension between empire building and the reverence for the night was not confined to the Western world. In Persia, a similar process unfolded, as the rise of Zoroastrianism, and later Islam, saw the gradual suppression of earlier, polytheistic beliefs that had flourished in the region. The old gods of darkness and the divine forces of the night were pushed aside, their temples abandoned, their rituals forbidden. As with Rome, these empires sought to impose a singular vision of spirituality, one that eliminated the pluralism that had once allowed night gods to thrive. The night, once a divine space for transformation and rebirth, became something else entirely, a threat to the order that these empires sought to establish. And yet, despite the empire's attempts to erase these beliefs, the night refused to disappear. In every corner of the world, as the light of empire spread, the ancient reverence for the night would survive, albeit in more secretive forms. People still gathered in the shadows, still practiced their rituals, still looked to the moon and stars for guidance. But these practices were no longer part of the dominant religious framework. They had been relegated to the margins, whispered in secret, or hidden in the folds of new spiritual practices that were themselves becoming suppressed. The rise of empire, with its relentless drive for control and unity, had pushed the night into the dark corners of history. But what was lost, buried beneath the weight of imperial power, was not easily erased. The night, with all its mystery and divine power, was still there, waiting to resurface. The next chapter in this story will take us into the rise of monotheistic religions, where the suppression of night beliefs would reach its peak, and the darkness would be redefined as a realm of evil, not divine power. With the rise of monotheism, the night once revered as a space where the divine touched, the mortal world began to undergo a profound transformation. Where once the darkness had been a place of mystery, connection, and even divine presence, it was now seen through a lens of fear and suspicion. In the sacred texts of Christianity and Islam, the night became inextricably linked to evil, sin, and temptation. What had once been a realm where gods communicated with humans was now the domain of demons and dark forces. The shift from a polytheistic, nature-based spirituality to the belief in a singular, all-powerful God fundamentally altered how the world viewed the night. The gods of the moon, the stars, and the darkness itself, figures like the Egyptian Nuit and the Greek Nyx, were slowly erased from the religious consciousness. The moon, once a sacred symbol of regeneration, transformation, and divine power, became relegated to a mere servant of the one God, its power stripped away. No longer was the night a space for reflection, wisdom, or communication with the divine. It became a place of temptation, a time when humanity was most vulnerable to the forces of evil. In Christian theology, this change was particularly stark. The darkness, once an extension of divine will, became the very embodiment of sin. The Christian narrative framed the night as a time when the forces of Satan prowled, when the soul was most vulnerable to the temptations of evil. The creation story itself, with the division of light from darkness, set the tone for how the night would be viewed in the years to come. In the Christian worldview, light was good, and darkness was bad, a cosmic duality that painted the night as something inherently sinister. The very idea of a sacred, transformative night was rewritten to reflect a new spiritual order, one that emphasized the battle between light and dark, good and evil. Islam, too, adopted a similar view of the night. Although the moon retained its importance in Islamic tradition, the emphasis shifted from divine worship to a more utilitarian role in guiding the faithful. The night was now seen as a time of trials, where the temptations of evil lurked. The concept of the night as a time of divine connection was increasingly overshadowed by the view of it as a space of potential corruption. This shift in perception was not merely theological, it had profound cultural and social implications. The once sacred rituals held during the night were increasingly seen as dangerous, heretical practices. The mystical practices of divination, astrology, and moon worship, which had been central to ancient night rituals, were now condemned as forms of witchcraft, superstition, and paganism. As the influence of monotheism spread, the night became increasingly demonized. In the Christian tradition, the Inquisition, the institution tasked with rooting out heresy, played a critical role in this transformation. The very rituals that had once connected humans to the divine forces of the night were now criminalized. To seek guidance from the stars or to commune with the moon was to invite the devil into one's life. Witch hunts and trials flourished, and those suspected of engaging in nocturnal rites were often accused of consorting with demons or practicing black magic. The night, once a place of sacred rituals, became a breeding ground for what was perceived as evil. This demonization of the night was not confined to Europe. As Islam expanded, the night took on a different yet equally ominous role. While the moon itself was still celebrated as a sign of Allah's creation, the night was increasingly viewed as a time for spiritual testing, a period when believers were especially vulnerable to temptation. In some parts of the Islamic world, certain nocturnal rituals associated with the old ways were banned, as they were seen as conflicting with the teachings of the Prophet. The night, rather than being a time of divine revelation, became a battleground between good and evil, a time when the faithful had to guard their hearts against the whispers of the devil. What had once been a sacred space for ritual, introspection, and communion with the divine was now painted as a realm of danger and darkness. The shift was not just theological but cultural, and the consequences were profound. The night became something to fear, a time to be wary of. Those who still sought to honor the ancient practices of the night found themselves marginalized, hunted, and persecuted. The gods of the night were replaced by a singular god who demanded submission to a new, rigid worldview, one that placed a heavy emphasis on light, purity, and obedience. The darkness, once revered as a force of creation and renewal, was now an enemy to be feared and avoided. This dramatic shift in the perception of the night was part of a larger cultural and spiritual movement that sought to erase the old ways. What had once been central to human existence, the reverence for the night as a divine space, was now relegated to the shadows, labeled as heresy or superstition. The rituals that had connected humans to the night were erased, and the concept of the night as a sacred time was lost. But even as the old beliefs were pushed underground, they did not vanish entirely. In the darkness, the ancient ways still whispered, waiting for a time when the world might once again open its eyes to the forgotten power of the night. As monotheism solidified its grip on the spiritual landscape, the battle between light and dark was far from over. The next chapter will uncover how these ancient night beliefs didn't disappear. They were forced into secrecy, hidden from the eyes of the dominant religious systems, but never truly erased. What once had been a sacred time of divine connection and transformation would soon be reduced to whispered legends and forbidden knowledge. As the winds of empire and religious consolidation swept across the ancient world, the once sacred rituals of the night were not merely abandoned, they were actively destroyed. What had been revered as divine knowledge, a connection to the gods themselves, was now systematically wiped from history. Temples dedicated to night gods were razed, sacred texts burned, and the people who continued to practice these nocturnal rites were persecuted, hunted down as heretics or witches. The battle between the old, polytheistic beliefs and the rising powers of monotheism escalated into an all-out effort to erase the past, to bury any trace of the sacred darkness that had once defined so much of human spirituality. The destruction was not sudden, but rather a gradual, relentless campaign. One of the most vivid examples of this eradication occurred with the rise of Christianity in the Roman Empire. When Emperor Constantine embraced Christianity as the state religion, the old pagan temples were shut down, and those dedicated to night deities were among the first to fall. The emperor's edict was clear. The old gods, especially those associated with the night, were no longer welcome in the empire. Temples that had once echoed with prayers to the moon gods or the night spirits were repurposed or destroyed altogether. The worship of the night, once a central part of spiritual life, was relegated to the shadows, both literally and figuratively. In the years that followed, the systematic suppression of night rituals became more aggressive. The Inquisition, a powerful tool of religious control, became a driving force behind the destruction of ancient beliefs. Witches, those who practiced nocturnal rites or sought knowledge through the stars and moon, were branded as servants of the devil. These people were tortured, burned, and executed in brutal campaigns aimed at not just stopping the practice of ancient rituals, but at eliminating any trace of them from society. Entire communities that had once worshipped the night under the cover of darkness were uprooted, their practices erased, their lives destroyed in the name of religious purity. Even sacred texts, those that recorded ancient rituals and wisdom, were not spared. Libraries and temples that housed ancient manuscripts were looted, and countless scrolls detailing the rituals of the night were burned. The knowledge contained within these texts, the wisdom passed down through generations about the divine nature of the night, was lost to history. What was once seen as sacred and essential to human understanding was deemed dangerous and forbidden. The burning of books was not just an act of destruction, it was an act of rewriting history, a deliberate attempt to erase entire belief systems from the cultural memory. But this wasn't confined to the Western world alone. As Islam spread across the Middle East and beyond, similar efforts to suppress ancient spiritual practices unfolded. The rise of Islam, with its strict monotheistic view, viewed the night rituals of the old polytheistic gods as heretical and sinful. The gods of the stars, the moon, and the darkness were erased, their temples repurposed or destroyed. Pagan practices, once common in the Arabian Peninsula and surrounding regions, were condemned. The night, once a space of spiritual connection and transformation, became associated with darkness and evil. The sacred knowledge of the night was slowly driven underground, and with it, the practices of the ancient world that had once thrived in the darkness were forced to fade into silence. The zeal for eradicating these rituals extended beyond religious boundaries. It was a cultural campaign, one that sought to impose a singular worldview on a diverse, polytheistic world. The old gods, the moon, the stars, and the night itself were demonized, removed from public consciousness, and replaced with a new order. The night became not a time of divine potential, but a space for temptation, sin, and evil. What was once the domain of gods and transformation became a place of fear and danger, a space to be avoided rather than embraced. But even as these rituals were systematically erased from public life, they did not disappear completely. The destruction of the ancient night beliefs was a violent and concerted effort to reshape the spiritual and cultural landscape of the world. Yet, the very force that sought to erase them could not entirely snuff out the remnants of these beliefs. The night, with all its mysteries and divine potential, would not be so easily silenced. The next chapter in this story will uncover how these ancient beliefs, though suppressed and forced underground, continued to survive in hidden forms, waiting to be rediscovered by those who sought the truth beyond the surface. Even as the great forces of empire and religion worked tirelessly to suppress ancient night beliefs, something remarkable happened. The rituals, the sacred practices that had once flourished in the darkness, did not simply vanish. Instead, they slipped into the shadows, hidden away within the folds of folklore and superstition. What had once been practiced in temples and sacred groves, under the watchful eyes of priests and worshippers, now found refuge in the whispered stories told around campfires, in the quiet corners of rural communities, and within the secretive rites of clandestine gatherings. The ancient beliefs about the night, its power, its mystery, its connection to the divine were far from forgotten. They evolved, morphed, and adapted, finding new forms of expression in the folk traditions that would be passed down through generations. As society became more structured and the forces of monotheism grew ever more powerful, the people who still held on to these ancient ways learned to hide their practices in plain sight. The night rituals, once overtly celebrated, became camouflaged as folklore, woven into the stories and customs that permeated rural life. Consider the many witches' Sabbath ceremonies that were said to occur under the cover of night, when the moon was full and the stars shone brightest. These gatherings, long associated with dark magic and pagan worship, had their roots in ancient rites. The witches, often seen as outcasts or rebels against the dominant religious order, were believed to commune with the divine forces of the night during these secretive celebrations. But these ceremonies were not merely acts of defiance, they were also a means of preserving ancient knowledge. In the flickering shadows of the firelight, ancient rituals were passed down, disguised as superstition or folklore. The witches, too, were guardians of the night's secrets, protecting what had been lost in the face of overwhelming cultural shifts. The lunar calendar, another relic of ancient times, offers another example of how night beliefs survived in hidden forms. Many rural communities, far from the prying eyes of the church or empire, continued to observe the phases of the moon, honoring the cycles of nature as their ancestors had done for millennia. Farmers would plant crops according to the moon's phases, believing that the alignment of the stars could affect their harvests. The full moon, with its silvery glow, was often seen as a time of heightened power, a time when the boundary between the physical and spiritual realms grew thinner. Even in an era when the moon had been relegated to a secondary status in religious thought, the people still felt its pull, still understood its significance. These lunar traditions, once tied to rituals of renewal and divine favor, now took on a different meaning. In the villages and small towns, stories of the full moon's power were passed down in hushed tones, not as religious dogma, but as cultural tradition. The moon, once a divine figure, was now seen as a symbol of mystery, an object of superstition that could affect everything from the tides to human behavior. The ancient beliefs that once shaped civilization's understanding of the night continued to live on, though often disconnected from their original spiritual significance. But folklore wasn't just about rituals tied to the moon or witches' gatherings. It also encompassed the many stories about the unseen forces that thrived in the night. The ghosts, the spirits, the beings that were said to emerge when the darkness fell. These tales were not mere stories to entertain the young. They were remnants of a much older belief system, one in which the night was populated by entities that could either help or harm. The spirits of the ancestors, often believed to roam the earth in the dead of night, played a central role in many cultures. To commune with these spirits was to tap into an ancient wisdom, to seek knowledge from the unseen realms that lay just beyond the veil. These spirits were not to be feared, but respected. In many cultures, offerings were left at crossroads or by the edge of forests, where the spirits were thought to linger. These acts, which may have appeared as mere superstitions to the outside world, were rooted in ancient traditions where the night was a sacred space, a time when the living and the dead could interact, when the human and the divine could meet. Over time, these rituals were diluted and transformed into stories about ghosts and restless spirits, but the essence of the practice remained. The night, once a place of divine revelation, was now a space where the veil between worlds was thin, where communication with the supernatural could occur. These hidden practices, cloaked in the language of folklore, persisted in the shadows, surviving the forces that sought to destroy them. The night, though demonized and redefined, still held sway over the collective consciousness. It was woven into the very fabric of the stories told from one generation to the next, carried through the ages in the whispers of those who continued to honor the ancient ways. What began as an overtly spiritual connection to the divine forces of the night had, over time, become something more subtle, something that could survive the centuries of suppression. Yet, even in this more secretive form, the essence of the ancient night rituals was alive. But how long could these hidden traditions remain untouched? The next chapter will delve into the emergence of secret societies, those who actively sought to preserve the forgotten wisdom of the night in esoteric practices. In their shadows, the ancient night beliefs would be safeguarded for centuries to come, hidden from the eyes of the world but never truly forgotten. Throughout history, there have been groups whose existence is steeped in mystery, societies that have operated in the shadows, their rituals and knowledge hidden from the public eye. These secretive groups, from the Freemasons to the Rosicrucians, have long been associated with the preservation and transmission of ancient wisdom, much of which is tied to the night. These organizations, often misunderstood or shrouded in rumors, played a pivotal role in safeguarding the spiritual and mystical knowledge that had once flourished in the darkness. The night, with its profound connection to the divine and the unknown, became the domain of these societies, whose members embraced the lunar, the cosmic, and the arcane as sacred symbols. But what were they really preserving? And why was the wisdom of the night so crucial to their teachings? The Freemasons, perhaps the most well-known of these secret societies, have long been linked with ancient rituals and symbols tied to the night. While many associate the Freemasons with architecture and charity, their deeper teachings are rooted in the spiritual and mystical traditions that stretch back to the dawn of civilization. The Freemasons, through their esoteric symbols, rituals, and allegories, carried forward a deep reverence for the moon, the stars, and the cosmic forces that once governed human existence. The famous Masonic symbol, the square and compass, has been linked to the geometry of the universe, a symbol of the divine order that was often aligned with celestial movements. But beyond the surface, there are subtle references to the hidden forces of the night. The moon, for instance, has been a central symbol in Masonic teachings, representing not just the cycles of nature, but also the illumination of knowledge in darkness, an allegory for the journey of the initiate moving from ignorance to enlightenment. For centuries, the Freemasons have passed down this hidden knowledge, often under the guise of moral and philosophical teachings. But the core of their rituals, especially those conducted in the dark of night, reflect a deep understanding of the ancient mysteries associated with the moon and the night sky. These rituals, often conducted under the cover of darkness, were not simply ceremonial. They were acts of spiritual transformation, where the initiate was symbolically reborn into a new understanding of the world, one that embraced the unknown, the hidden, and the mystical forces of the night. Similarly, the Rosicrucians, a mystical and esoteric society that traces its origins to the early 17th century, were heavily influenced by the night and the celestial forces that governed the universe. The Rosicrucians' teachings, which combined elements of alchemy, mysticism, and Christianity, were deeply intertwined with the symbolism of the night. Their belief in the transformative power of darkness mirrored the ancient traditions of moon worship and lunar cycles, seeing the night as a time when the soul could transcend the physical world and journey into the divine. Like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians placed great importance on the night's power, using it as a time for reflection, introspection, and spiritual purification. Their rituals, often held under the cover of darkness, aimed to unlock the secrets of the universe and transform the soul through the exploration of hidden knowledge. The night in these secret societies was not a time of fear, but a time of learning and spiritual ascent. It was a time to journey inward, to connect with the divine, and to unlock the mysteries that were hidden from the eyes of the uninitiated. These societies, many of whom have carried the ancient traditions of the night through their secret teachings, understood that the night held the key to understanding the deepest truths of existence. They preserved and passed on the knowledge of the night, often cloaked in allegories, symbols, and rituals that could only be fully understood by those who were initiated into their mysteries. But it wasn't just the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians. Throughout history, various occult groups have continued this tradition of keeping the wisdom of the night alive. From the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn to more modern esoteric groups, the night's teachings have remained an integral part of their practices. These groups, often working in secret, have used the night as a backdrop for their most powerful rituals, understanding that it is during the hours of darkness when the veil between the physical and spiritual realms is thinnest. In these moments, they believed, the secrets of the universe could be revealed. Even today, remnants of these night-related beliefs survive in the rituals and symbols of these societies. The moon, the stars, the cycle of darkness and light, these are all present in the teachings of groups that continue to operate in the shadows. The ancient wisdom, once nearly erased by the rise of empire and monotheism, has been preserved and transmitted through these secret channels. The night, in many ways, remains a symbol of hidden knowledge of that which has been deliberately kept from the public eye. Why, though, was the night such a central symbol in these societies? The answer may lie in the deep connection that the night once had with spiritual transformation. The ancients understood that the darkness held the potential for new beginnings, much like how a seed must first be buried in the soil before it can grow. To these societies, the night represented the unknown, the mysteries of existence, and through their rituals, they believed they could unlock the divine truths hidden within it. It was a space where transformation could occur, where the mundane could be left behind, and the sacred could be revealed. In these secret societies, the wisdom of the night has not only survived, it has flourished. Through centuries of suppression, through political and religious forces that sought to erase the old ways, these groups have kept the knowledge of the night alive, often under the guise of philosophy or spirituality. But the ancient rituals, the deep reverence for the moon and the darkness, still echo within these societies. The night, once a sacred time of connection with the divine, has remained hidden in plain sight, preserved by those who understand its true power. As these traditions continued to be passed down in secrecy, the ancient night beliefs did not vanish. They simply evolved, taking on new forms and meanings in the esoteric and occult teachings that have persisted into the modern era. The mysteries of the night, once almost lost to history, continue to shape our understanding of the cosmos and the unseen forces that govern our lives. These beliefs, preserved in secret, remain a testament to the enduring power of the night, a power that continues to beckon those who seek to understand what lies beyond the veil. In the next chapter, we'll explore how these hidden traditions, preserved in secret societies, resurfaced in the modern era, influencing the spiritual movements and occult practices that continue to thrive today. The ancient night beliefs, though shrouded in secrecy, would eventually find their way into the hands of those who sought to uncover them, and the mysteries of the night would not stay hidden forever. At the turn of the 20th century, the world found itself in the midst of a spiritual awakening, a resurgence of interest in the mysteries that had been long suppressed. It was a time when secret knowledge, long hidden from the masses, began to emerge once more into the light. Figures like Aleister Crowley and Helena Blavatsky, leaders of the occult revival, sought to reconnect with the ancient wisdom that had been buried beneath the weight of centuries of religious and imperial suppression. These figures were not just spiritual seekers, they were torchbearers for a forgotten world, bringing the lost rituals, symbols, and beliefs of the night back into the consciousness of a new generation. The occult revival was, in many ways, a direct response to the rationalism and materialism that had come to dominate Western thought. As science and reason took hold, many began to feel that something essential had been lost, a deeper connection to the mysteries of the universe. The night, once revered as a sacred time of transformation and divine revelation, had been relegated to the realm of superstition and darkness. But now, as the occult revival gained momentum, the ancient beliefs about the night, its power, its cosmic significance, its connection to the divine, began to resurface. Aleister Crowley, one of the most prominent and controversial figures of the early occult movement, was a key proponent of the idea that hidden knowledge, particularly knowledge related to the night and the cosmic forces governing it, needed to be reclaimed. Crowley's teachings drew heavily on ancient magical practices, many of which were rooted in lunar worship and nocturnal rituals. He saw the night as a time for spiritual ascent, a time when the soul could break free from the constraints of the physical world and reach toward the divine. Crowley's infamous magical rituals, his exploration of the moon's cycles, and his fascination with the darkness were all part of a broader effort to resurrect ancient night beliefs that had been suppressed for centuries. At the same time, Helena Blavatsky, the founder of Theosophy, was also reintegrating ancient spiritual practices into popular culture. Blavatsky's teachings blended Eastern and Western mysticism, bringing forgotten knowledge of the night's spiritual power to a wider audience. She and her followers revered the moon and its cycles, seeing it as a symbol of both transformation and divine illumination. Theosophy embraced the idea that the cosmos, with its night sky filled with stars and hidden energies, held the key to understanding the spiritual realm. For Blavatsky and other occult leaders, the night was no longer a time to fear, but a time to connect with the higher realms, to access a deeper understanding of existence. These figures, along with many others involved in the occult revival, were drawn to the idea that the night represented more than just a period of rest. It was a time of cosmic transformation, a time when the soul could transcend the material world and reach toward higher knowledge. Through their writings, teachings, and rituals, they sought to reawaken the ancient reverence for the night, bringing back the lunar deities, the nocturnal rituals, and the belief in cosmic cycles that had once been central to spiritual practices. The occult revival, however, wasn't just about looking back. It was about creating a new spiritual framework for the modern age, one that acknowledged the mysteries of the night and embraced the hidden, unseen forces that had shaped ancient belief systems. The symbols and rituals of the night were not seen as relics of a primitive past, but as vital tools for understanding the nature of the universe and our place within it. The moon, the stars, the cycles of darkness and light, these became powerful metaphors for the spiritual journey, for the human soul's quest for enlightenment and transformation. This period of rediscovery brought ancient night beliefs out of the shadows and into the modern world. The idea of connecting with the divine through the night, of embracing the darkness as a path to enlightenment, was no longer just a forgotten tradition. It was a living, breathing movement, one that would have a profound impact on the spiritual landscape of the 20th century. The occult revival's fascination with the night was not limited to these well-known figures. Throughout the early 1900s, the influence of the night on Western esotericism began to spread, influencing artists, writers, and thinkers. Authors like H.P. Lovecraft, whose works are filled with cosmic horrors and references to the night, tapped into these ancient fears and reverences for the darkness. The night, as a symbol of the unknown, became a recurring theme in literature and popular culture, signaling the return of an ancient understanding that had been nearly lost. By the time the 20th century drew to a close, the occult revival had left a deep mark on Western spirituality and culture. The night, once again, had found a place in the hearts and minds of those who were seeking something deeper, something beyond the material world. Ancient night beliefs, long buried beneath the weight of centuries of religious domination, had resurfaced. But this was not merely a nostalgic return to the past. It was the beginning of a new spiritual movement, one that embraced the unknown, that sought to explore the depths of the cosmos, and that recognized the night as a space of transformation, illumination, and divine power. In the next section, we will explore how this resurgence of ancient night beliefs influenced modern spirituality and popular culture, shaping the esoteric practices and occult movements of today. The night, once suppressed and demonized, had returned to the public consciousness, and its influence would continue to reverberate for generations to come. The ancient worship of the night, with its deep reverence for the moon and the mysterious forces of the cosmos, has never truly disappeared. In fact, it has re-emerged in modern spiritual practices, breathing new life into rituals and beliefs that had been buried for centuries. Today, the moon is no longer just a celestial body in the night sky. It is a powerful symbol of intuition, transformation, and hidden knowledge. Across the world, from astrology to witchcraft to New Age spirituality, the ancient night beliefs that once guided entire civilizations have found their way into contemporary rituals, reconnecting people with the divine and the mysterious energies of the universe. Astrology, one of the most prominent ways the moon's ancient significance is experienced today, is deeply rooted in lunar worship. The moon has long been seen as a symbol of emotion, intuition, and the subconscious. Its cycles are thought to influence everything from human behavior to the natural world, and modern astrologers continue to explore its power through lunar phases. Full moons, new moons, and eclipses are seen as times of heightened energy when the forces of the universe are most aligned to offer guidance, transformation, and even revelation. People use these moments to set intentions, release old patterns, and connect with their inner selves. The phases of the moon, once viewed as sacred by ancient cultures, have become guiding forces in the lives of those who seek more than what the material world can offer. Astrology, in this sense, has brought ancient lunar wisdom into the modern age, but it is by no means the only modern spiritual practice that incorporates the moon's energy. Witchcraft and other forms of contemporary paganism have experienced a revival in the past century, with many practitioners turning to the moon as a central focus of their spiritual work. Full moon rituals, once common in ancient times, have once again become powerful ceremonies in witchcraft traditions. These rituals often involve meditation, manifestation, and releasing what no longer serves the practitioner. Witches and pagans believe that the full moon holds a unique power to illuminate the darkest corners of the soul, offering clarity, healing, and empowerment. The moon's association with the feminine, the mystical, and the divine has made it an essential symbol in these practices, calling upon the ancient energies that once connected people to the cycles of the universe. The resurgence of lunar-based rituals has also found a home in New Age spirituality, where the moon plays a central role in practices such as manifestation, energy healing, and meditative journeys. Modern spiritual movements, influenced by the teachings of figures like Helena Blavatsky and the occult revival, have embraced the moon as a symbol of spiritual awakening and transformation. For many, the act of meditating under the full moon, or performing rituals in alignment with its phases, is not just about tapping into personal desires, but reconnecting with the broader cosmic forces that govern the universe. This return to lunar worship speaks to a deeper human need to find meaning beyond the material world, to connect with something greater than the self. The moon, as a symbol of the night, carries with it the ancient belief that darkness is not a void, but a space of potential, an opportunity for transformation and spiritual growth. As the moon reflects the light of the sun, it symbolizes the illumination of the hidden truths within us, the ones we can only access in the quiet, sacred moments of the night. In this way, the moon has become a guide, a constant companion in the spiritual journeys of millions who seek to understand the mysteries of existence. Its cycles, its shifting phases, remind us that transformation is always possible, even in the darkest times. Across the world, the night and its associated moon rituals continue to captivate people's imaginations and hearts. From the simple act of observing the full moon to elaborate ceremonies involving crystals, candles, and sacred chants, these practices are a testament to the enduring power of the night and the cosmic forces it represents. The revival of lunar worship in modern spiritual practices highlights the fact that ancient beliefs are far from dead, they have merely adapted to the changing times, finding new forms of expression in rituals that honor the divine, the mysterious, and the unknown. In many ways, this resurgence represents a collective yearning for a deeper connection to the natural world and to the spiritual energies that surround us. As the night once held the key to understanding the divine and the unseen, so too does it continue to guide those who seek to uncover the hidden wisdom of the universe. The moon, as both a symbol of the night and a beacon of transformation, remains as relevant today as it was to the ancients, an eternal reminder that there is much more to the world than what meets the eye. This exploration of the moon's continued significance in modern spiritual practices sets the stage for our next chapter, where we will dive into the pervasive influence of ancient night beliefs in popular culture. The moon's enduring presence in modern rituals and New Age practices has not only reshaped individual spirituality, but has also left its mark on the stories we tell, the movies we watch, and the myths we continue to believe. The secrets of the night, though buried for centuries, have resurfaced, and their impact on contemporary culture is undeniable. Throughout history, the night has been a place where the veil between the known and the unknown grows thin, a space where reality and the supernatural blur. It is no surprise, then, that night-related symbols and themes have played a central role in some of the most iconic works of literature and film. From the Gothic novels of the 19th century to the modern horror films of today, the night has served as a canvas for exploring humanity's deepest fears, desires, and long-held mysteries. Writers and filmmakers have long understood the power of the night to invoke emotions that are difficult to express during the daylight hours. In the dark, ancient beliefs resurface, primal instincts awaken, and the mysterious forces of the universe seem closer than ever. Consider, for instance, Dracula, Bram Stoker's legendary Gothic novel, which taps into some of the most enduring fears associated with the night. The story of Count Dracula, the vampire lord who preys upon the living during the dead of night, is steeped in ancient symbolism. Dracula himself is a creature of the darkness, a being who comes alive in the shadows, embodying the fear that the night is not simply an absence of light, but a realm where evil lurks. Stoker's choice to place Dracula's activities in the night is no accident. Nighttime, with its eerie stillness, provides the perfect backdrop for the supernatural. The moonlit landscapes and dimly lit castles create an atmosphere of dread, drawing on the ancient association of the night with the unknown. In Dracula, the night becomes a liminal space, where the boundaries between the living and the dead, the real and the unreal, begin to disintegrate. This theme of night as a realm of supernatural influence is carried over into countless other works, with writers and filmmakers consistently returning to the darkness to evoke fear and mystery. In modern works, such as Harry Potter, the moon and the night sky retain their powerful symbolic role. The presence of the moon in the Harry Potter series, whether in the shape-shifting powers of Remus Lupin, the werewolf, or in the mystical properties of the Marauder's map, directly taps into the long-standing association of the night with magic and transformation. The moon, as a symbol of mystery and cosmic power, is deeply intertwined with the events of the wizarding world. Its phases, like the cycle of life itself, serve as metaphors for change, danger, and hidden knowledge. The darkness is not just a setting in Harry Potter, it is an active force, shaping the characters' fates and pushing them toward their destinies. This connection between the night and the supernatural has only deepened in contemporary horror, where darkness is no longer just a passive setting, but an active force that shapes the narrative. Modern horror films such as The Conjuring, It Follows, and Hereditary all rely heavily on the night to fuel their eerie atmospheres. These films draw from the same well of ancient beliefs that view the night as a time when the world is most susceptible to otherworldly forces. In The Conjuring, the spirits that haunt the Warren family are most active when night falls, reminding the audience that the dark hours are when the supernatural realm is most alive. The night becomes a time when the boundaries between life and death are blurred, and the space between human beings and spirits grows smaller. The full moon, which often appears in these films, has a particular significance. It is the time when the forces of darkness are at their peak, and the characters are most vulnerable. This idea of the night as a space of heightened danger and supernatural activity is a direct reflection of the ancient belief that the darkness holds power, both transformative and terrifying. Throughout history, night rituals and deities were viewed as forces that could either protect or harm. In literature and film, this dual nature of the night continues to thrive, as writers and filmmakers play with the concept of the unknown, weaving ancient themes of death, rebirth, and the eternal struggle between good and evil into their works. The eerie allure of darkness in these stories, whether in the gothic horror of Dracula or the modern supernatural terror of The Conjuring, taps into a primal fear, a fear rooted in ancient cultural traditions. For centuries, the night was not simply a time to sleep, but a period of cosmic significance. It was a time when gods could speak, when souls could cross over, and when the forces of nature were most potent. Today, this symbolism continues to resonate, from the way we see the moon guiding the fates of fictional characters to the way we fear the monsters that emerge when the world is cloaked in darkness. The connection between night symbolism in media and ancient beliefs is not just a coincidence. It is a reflection of the deep, timeless connection humanity has with the darkness. The moon's glow, the silent shadow of night, and the supernatural forces that it has long been associated with continue to shape our stories and imaginations. Writers and filmmakers, knowingly or unknowingly, have tapped into the ancient well of lunar symbolism and the mysteries of the night, using them to craft some of the most iconic and enduring tales of all time. As we dive deeper into the ways these ancient beliefs have resurfaced, we will explore how the themes of the night have permeated modern rituals and practices. The symbols and motifs of the night, though seemingly relegated to fiction, continue to shape contemporary spiritual practices and even our daily lives. The night, as both a symbol and a force, refuses to be silenced. It continues to guide, to inspire, and to terrify. The moon has long been a symbol of transformation, mystery, and the supernatural. In modern horror and fantasy, it continues to evoke primal fears and deep-seated emotions, often linked to the darker forces that lurk at the edges of human understanding. Films like The Exorcist, The Witch, and the Twilight Saga draw directly from ancient night beliefs, incorporating the moon and darkness as central elements that shape the narrative and the fates of their characters. These works tap into a rich tapestry of ancient symbolism, breathing new life into the timeless themes of light versus dark, good versus evil, and the eternal struggle between the known and the unknown. In doing so, they not only capture our deepest fears, but also remind us that, at its core, the night is still a powerful, transformative force, a force that continues to captivate our imagination. In The Exorcist, one of the most iconic horror films of all time, the moon plays an indirect yet vital role in setting the atmosphere of fear and unease. The film doesn't overtly focus on the moon as a character or a symbol, but its presence looms large. The supernatural forces at work in The Exorcist are closely tied to the power of darkness and the unknown forces that are most potent in the dead of night. The exorcism itself, conducted under the cover of darkness, aligns with ancient beliefs that the night is when the veil between the mortal world and the spiritual realm is at its thinnest. The darkness is a time when forbidden knowledge is unearthed, when demons awaken, and when the soul is most vulnerable. In ancient traditions, the night was a time of spiritual trials, a place where the divine and the demonic could engage in their cosmic battle. In The Exorcist, the moonlit night becomes the backdrop for this very struggle, amplifying the terror and tension that builds throughout the film. Similarly, in The Witch, 2015, darkness and the moon are essential symbols of the film's thematic exploration of temptation, witchcraft, and the unraveling of the human soul. Set in 1630 seconds New England, the film uses the eerie isolation of the night and the haunting power of the moon to evoke the fear of the unknown. The central figure of the witch, a being who embodies the forbidden and the supernatural, is shown to gain her power through the darkness, both literal and metaphorical. The moon in this context represents not only the forces of nature, but the liminal space where transformation and evil occur. The film's use of the moon as a symbol of forbidden knowledge speaks to the ancient belief that the night was a space where humanity could tap into hidden forces, for better or worse. The witch's power, unleashed under the light of the moon, mirrors ancient rituals and beliefs, where darkness was not only feared, but also revered as a space for transformation and divine connection. In a different vein, the Twilight Saga, 2008 to 2012, uses the moon as a recurring motif to underscore the transformation that occurs under the influence of the night. The story, which revolves around the supernatural conflict between vampires, werewolves, and humans, is drenched in lunar symbolism. The werewolf, a creature whose transformation is closely tied to the full moon, taps directly into the ancient belief that the moon governs both the physical and spiritual realms. The moon, in this context, becomes a harbinger of change, symbolizing the eternal cycle of life and death, humanity and the supernatural. The characters in Twilight are deeply connected to the moon's power, whether it's the transformative effects of becoming a vampire or the heightened instincts of the werewolves. The moon is not just a backdrop in Twilight, it is a force that shapes the destinies of the characters, guiding them through their struggles and transformations. These films, The Exorcist, The Witch, and the Twilight Saga, are just a few examples of how the moon and the night continue to hold a powerful grip on the modern imagination. But beyond these cinematic examples, the themes of darkness and lunar symbolism extend into contemporary culture in more subtle ways. The moon remains a potent symbol in modern-day occult practices, influencing everything from witchcraft and astrology to New Age spiritual movements. The full moon, in particular, has become a symbol of personal transformation and empowerment. Modern witches perform rituals during the full moon, harnessing its energy for spells of healing, protection, and personal growth. The moon, once a symbol of the divine and the unknown in ancient traditions, continues to be revered as a gateway to hidden knowledge and spiritual awakening. The influence of these ancient night beliefs also permeates internet-driven paranormal phenomena. Communities on social media platforms and online forums often discuss the power of the moon and its effects on human behavior. Full moon rituals, lunar eclipses, and astrological events related to the moon are regularly discussed, with people sharing experiences of heightened intuition, strange occurrences, and even paranormal encounters during these times. The night, particularly the full moon, continues to be viewed as a time when the supernatural is most active, when hidden forces can be tapped into, and when transformation is most likely to occur. The moon's continued presence in modern horror and fantasy reflects a deeper, primal connection to the ancient night beliefs that have persisted through the ages. Whether it's in the shadows of The Exorcist, the eerie moonlit landscapes of The Witch, or the symbolic power of the full moon in the Twilight Saga, the moon remains a powerful, transformative force. These modern stories tap into the very essence of what the night represents: change, mystery, and the blurring of boundaries between the natural and supernatural worlds. The moon, as a symbol of transformation, danger, and hidden knowledge, continues to influence modern storytelling, just as it did in the ancient myths that once connected humans to the cosmos. As we look at how these themes manifest in contemporary culture, it becomes clear that ancient night beliefs are not only alive in our stories, they are still shaping the way we understand the world around us. The moon's enduring influence is a testament to the timeless power of the night, a power that continues to captivate our imaginations and guide our exploration of the unknown. This exploration of the moon and night-related symbols in modern horror and fantasy paves the way for a deeper look into the modern-day revival of ancient night beliefs. In the next section, we will explore how these ancient symbols and practices continue to influence spiritual movements, from occult rituals to the growing popularity of lunar-based astrology. The resurgence of night rituals in contemporary life reveals just how much these ancient beliefs continue to shape our understanding of the mysterious forces that govern our existence. In the modern world, a revival is taking place, a return to the forgotten spiritual practices of the past, where the night was not something to fear, but a realm of transformation, mystery, and divine power. Neo-paganism, modern witchcraft, and other spiritual practices are increasingly embracing the ancient night rituals that were once suppressed by empires and religions. The moon, once revered as a divine force by ancient cultures, has once again become a powerful symbol of connection and transformation in modern spiritual practices. This resurgence is not just about nostalgia for ancient beliefs, it is a conscious return to the mystical truths that have long been buried under centuries of religious and cultural domination. One of the most notable examples of this revival is the rise of Wicca and modern witchcraft. Popularized in the mid-20th century, Wicca and other forms of neo-paganism have rediscovered the sacred rituals of the night, embracing the lunar cycles and the natural world as central components of spiritual practice. In these traditions, the night is not a time of evil or fear, but a time of power and revelation. The moon, which once governed ancient rituals and rites, is once again seen as a guiding force, offering light in the darkness and revealing hidden truths. In Wicca, the phases of the moon play a critical role in shaping the spiritual journey. Full moon rituals, for example, are times of peak energy, when the universe is most aligned and magical workings are most potent. These rituals often involve meditation, spell work, or ceremonies that celebrate the power of the night to illuminate what is hidden. Wiccans believe that the full moon, with its radiant light, offers a window into the unseen, connecting practitioners to the divine, the spirits, and the earth. The moon's connection to intuition, mystery, and the ebb and flow of life is central to Wicca, and it brings ancient night beliefs back into the modern age. The Sabbats, which mark the 8 seasonal festivals of the Wiccan Wheel of the Year, also draw heavily from ancient lunar worship. These Sabbats, which are aligned with the solar and lunar cycles, are times for spiritual reflection, celebration, and transformation. Many of the Sabbats, such as Imbolc, Beltane, and Samhain, are celebrated at night, further emphasizing the sacredness of the dark hours. Samhain, for instance, which marks the Wiccan New Year, is a time when the veil between the living and the dead is said to be at its thinnest, an ancient belief that aligns with the idea that the night is a sacred time for connecting with ancestors and the spirit world. During this time, practitioners honor the spirits of the past, conduct rituals of renewal, and embrace the darkness as a space of rebirth and connection to the divine. The growing popularity of witchcraft and neo-paganism is a reflection of a deeper yearning for spiritual connection to nature and the cosmos. For many, the moon's cycles offer a sense of order in an increasingly chaotic world. The night, with its quiet and contemplative energy, becomes a place of peace and healing, where one can seek guidance and wisdom from the natural world. Unlike more rigid, dogmatic religions, modern witchcraft and neo-paganism embrace the mysteries of the night as something to be experienced personally and individually. There is no fear of the dark. Instead, It is a space where transformation happens, where old patterns can be released and new possibilities can emerge. This resurgence of night rituals, however, is not limited to Wicca alone. Other modern pagan practices, such as druidry, eclectic witchcraft, and contemporary heathenry, also incorporate lunar worship and the veneration of the night. In these practices, the night is honored for its deep connection to the cycles of nature, its association with the divine feminine, and its transformative power. The moon, once worshipped by the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Greece, and Mesopotamia, continues to inspire and guide modern practitioners, who look to its phases to mark important moments in their spiritual journeys. The return to these ancient practices is not just an attempt to reclaim lost knowledge, it is an act of spiritual revival, an acknowledgement that the night holds wisdom and power that modern society has overlooked or misunderstood. The moon, in all its phases, is a symbol of the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a cycle that modern witchcraft and neo-paganism honor through their rituals. These ancient beliefs are being resurrected not just as a form of spiritual practice, but as a way to reconnect with something more primal, more connected to the earth and the cosmos. What is fascinating about this resurgence is how deeply connected these practices are to the beliefs of the ancient world. The ancient moon gods and night rituals, which were once suppressed and erased by rising empires and monotheistic religions, have found a new home in the modern spiritual movements of neo-paganism and witchcraft. Through these revived practices, the ancient reverence for the night is being reborn, allowing people to rediscover a forgotten connection to the divine forces of the universe. The resurgence of ancient night worship, as seen through Wicca and neo-paganism, is not simply about the past. It is a powerful reflection of the human desire to return to a more holistic and spiritually connected way of life. As these practices continue to grow, they remind us that the night, far from being a place of fear or obscurity, is a space of immense spiritual power and transformation. In the next section, we will delve into how these revived beliefs are influencing broader spiritual movements and New Age practices, bringing the ancient power of the night into modern-day consciousness. As more people seek to reconnect with the mysteries of the universe, the ancient night rituals continue to shape the spiritual landscape of the present and future. The moon has long held a central place in human consciousness, its silvery glow casting a mystic light over the earth and influencing countless cultural beliefs and rituals. In the modern age, the moon's power has been revitalized, particularly within the New Age movement, where it plays a pivotal role in spiritual practices aimed at reconnecting with the ancient wisdom of the past. Modern seekers of truth and transformation have turned to the moon as a guide, a symbol of mystical power that offers profound spiritual insight and cosmic alignment. Whether in the form of full moon meditations, lunar rituals, or astrology, the moon is now more than a celestial body. It is a spiritual tool that connects individuals to the mysteries of the universe, drawing on ancient lunar worship traditions that span across cultures and time. The New Age movement, which emerged in the mid-20th century as a response to the rigid doctrines of organized religion and the materialism of the modern world, is fundamentally about seeking spiritual meaning beyond the physical realm. At its core, it involves a return to ancient practices and an embrace of the mystical and the unseen. Among the most prominent symbols of this spiritual revival is the moon. The New Age movement recognizes the moon's dual nature. It is both a symbol of the feminine, intuition, and mystery, as well as a powerful cosmic force that governs the cycles of life, death, and rebirth. A key practice within the New Age movement is the use of moon rituals, particularly those associated with the full moon. These rituals, which often involve meditation, reflection, and the manifestation of intentions, tap into the ancient belief that the full moon is a time of heightened energy, spiritual insight, and divine connection. The full moon has long been associated with transformation and illumination. Ancient cultures, from the Egyptians to the Greeks, viewed the full moon as a time when the spiritual realms were most accessible, when the energies of the universe were aligned, and when personal or collective transformation could take place. In modern New Age practices, these rituals have been adapted to align with the needs and desires of contemporary spiritual seekers. Full moon meditations, for instance, have become a cornerstone of many New Age practices. These meditations often take place outdoors, under the moonlight, where practitioners gather to reflect, set intentions, and seek personal transformation. The full moon is seen as a time to release old patterns, to let go of negative energies, and to invite new opportunities for growth. Just as the full moon illuminates the night sky, it is believed to illuminate the unconscious mind, bringing hidden emotions, desires, and truths to the surface. It is a time for spiritual cleansing, healing, and renewal. These practices, rooted in ancient lunar worship, demonstrate how the moon's transformative power continues to resonate with modern spiritual seekers. Astrology, another significant component of New Age spirituality, also draws deeply from the symbolism of the moon. In astrological teachings, the moon represents the emotional self, the subconscious, and the intuitive mind. Its position in the sky at the time of one's birth is believed to influence a person's emotional responses, instincts, and overall spiritual path. Lunar eclipses, which occur when the Earth blocks the sun's light from the moon, are often viewed as times of powerful transformation, when hidden truths are revealed and deep personal changes are set into motion. Just as ancient civilizations used the moon's phases to guide agricultural cycles and spiritual practices, modern astrologers continue to incorporate the moon into their systems of personal insight and spiritual growth. The idea of the moon as a guide to inner wisdom and transformation is also evident in the practice of lunar astrology, where people chart their lives according to the phases of the moon. This practice emphasizes the importance of living in harmony with the cycles of nature, aligning personal actions with the ebb and flow of lunar energy. The waxing moon, which represents growth and increase, is seen as a time for planting seeds, beginning new ventures, and manifesting desires. The waning moon, on the other hand, is a time for releasing and letting go, for reflecting on the past and preparing for the future. The moon's influence on both the emotional and physical realms reinforces its role as a symbol of continuous change and evolution. The influence of the moon in New Age practices can also be seen in the resurgence of lunar-based rituals, which often combine elements of modern witchcraft, paganism, and indigenous spiritual practices. For example, rituals performed during the new moon, which is associated with new beginnings, focus on setting intentions and planting seeds for the future. These ceremonies often involve offerings, prayers, and rituals of purification, as practitioners honor the moon's potential for personal and collective growth. The lunar cycle becomes a metaphor for the continuous cycles of creation, destruction, and rebirth that shape human existence. One of the most notable figures in the modern revival of lunar worship is the renowned spiritual teacher and author Diana Paxson, whose work in neo-paganism and Wicca has emphasized the moon's central role in spiritual practice. Paxson and other contemporary spiritual leaders have written extensively about the moon's transformative power, emphasizing the moon's association with the divine feminine, intuition, and the cycles of nature. These teachings resonate with a growing number of people who seek a deeper connection to the earth and the cosmos, people who are searching for meaning beyond the constraints of traditional religious systems. As the moon's symbolism continues to influence modern spirituality, its power is also reflected in contemporary popular culture. From films to books, the moon is a constant symbol of magic, mystery, and transformation. The popularity of series like Harry Potter and Twilight, where the moon and night are central to the plot, underscores the deep connection between modern storytelling and ancient lunar themes. These cultural manifestations serve as a reminder of the enduring significance of the moon, not just as a celestial body, but as a symbol of hidden knowledge and spiritual awakening. The revival of lunar worship within the New Age movement is more than just a passing trend. It is a return to ancient truths that honor the cycles of nature, the wisdom of the feminine, and the transformative power of the night. Modern spiritual seekers, whether through moon rituals, astrology, or New Age philosophy, are rediscovering the profound connection to the night that ancient cultures once embraced. The moon continues to serve as a beacon of spiritual transformation, guiding those who are open to its mystical and transformative energy. As we explore how these ancient beliefs have resurfaced and continue to influence modern spiritual practices, we will see how the moon and the night remain central to the ongoing search for spiritual meaning and connection in today's world. The next chapter will delve into the psychological and cultural significance of the night in contemporary society, examining how these revived rituals are reshaping our understanding of the dark and the divine in the modern era. The night has always held a unique power over the human psyche. It is a time when the world around us falls silent and the chaos of daily life fades into a quiet stillness. Yet, It is also a time when our inner world becomes more pronounced. The hidden thoughts, desires, and fears that we usually suppress or deny come to the forefront. This psychological power of the night has fascinated thinkers for centuries, and in particular, it is often explored through the lens of Jungian psychology, where darkness and the night are seen as symbols of the unconscious mind. Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed that the unconscious mind is a reservoir of thoughts, memories, and emotions that are not readily accessible to our conscious awareness. The night, in many ways, mirrors this unconscious realm, dark, mysterious, and often misunderstood. Just as the night obscures the physical world, so too does the unconscious mind hide parts of ourselves that we are unwilling or unable to confront. Jung viewed the unconscious as both a source of creativity and a potential wellspring of psychological conflict. The night, much like the unconscious, can be both a space for revelation and a place of fear. In Jungian thought, the darkness of the night is a metaphor for the hidden aspects of the self, those parts that we may repress or refuse to acknowledge. Our deepest fears, desires, and unresolved conflicts often reside in this shadowy domain. The night becomes a mirror, reflecting what we hide from ourselves in the light of day. The power of the night lies in its ability to bring these hidden aspects to the surface, sometimes through dreams or the quiet solitude of the dark hours. Jung referred to these hidden aspects of the self as the shadow, a part of our psyche that is often suppressed but still has a profound influence on our behavior and emotions. The unconscious mind, much like the night, is not inherently negative. It is a space where transformation and integration can occur. However, it is also a place where our fears are magnified, and the things we would rather not confront rise to the surface. The night, then, is both a place of healing and a place of anxiety. When we sleep, we enter the realm of the unconscious, where we may encounter these shadowy aspects of ourselves in the form of dreams. The symbolism of night in dreams often reflects these deeper, often unacknowledged, parts of our psyche. Just as the darkness of the night conceals the world from our sight, so too does the unconscious hide parts of ourselves that we must come to terms with in order to achieve personal growth. This dual nature of the night, its capacity to both conceal and reveal, speaks to its deep psychological significance. It represents the unknown, the unexplored, and the repressed parts of our personality. For centuries, cultures have associated the night with mystery and the supernatural, and it is in this space of uncertainty that we encounter both our greatest fears and our potential for growth. The night, in many ways, becomes a mirror to the unconscious mind, a reflection of what we try to keep hidden and what we must ultimately confront. Our fascination with the night is, in part, a fascination with what lies beneath the surface of our consciousness. Just as the night draws us into its depths, so too does the unconscious mind draw us into the hidden realms of our psyche. The fear that the night evokes, whether through monsters lurking in the dark or the quiet stillness that makes us feel vulnerable, is not just a fear of the unknown external world. It is, more profoundly, a fear of our own internal darkness, the parts of ourselves that we are reluctant to face. Yet, in embracing this darkness, we can find a path to healing, self-discovery, and psychological integration. Jung's ideas about the unconscious mind and its connection to the night resonate deeply with modern understandings of psychological health. In psychotherapy, particularly in the field of Jungian analysis, individuals are encouraged to explore their own shadows, the aspects of themselves that they have repressed or denied in order to achieve wholeness. The night, with its power to bring the unconscious into the light of awareness, becomes a powerful tool for self-exploration. It is not the darkness itself that is to be feared, but the parts of ourselves that we have yet to confront. The night's symbolism also taps into a collective unconscious, a shared reservoir of human experiences and symbols that are universally recognized, even across cultures. The darkness, the moon, and the night sky have long been used in myths and stories as symbols of transformation, death, and rebirth. In these stories, the night often represents a journey into the unknown, a space where heroes must confront their fears and discover hidden truths. This archetypal journey, where the hero must descend into the darkness in order to emerge transformed, mirrors the psychological journey that each individual must undergo to face their shadow and integrate the unconscious aspects of themselves. Our fascination with the night is not merely an individual experience, it is a collective one. From the myths of ancient civilizations to modern horror films, the night has been a central theme in stories that explore the human condition. These stories often use the night as a symbol of psychological transformation, where characters must face their fears, embrace their hidden aspects, and emerge stronger as a result. This theme resonates with our own unconscious fears and desires, tapping into the deep psychological power of the night. As we explore the psychological power of the night, we begin to understand why it holds such a profound grip on our imaginations. The night is not simply a physical phenomenon. It is a reflection of our deepest selves, those parts of us that we hide, deny, or fear. It is a space of transformation, healing, and confrontation. In the darkness, we encounter our shadows, and in doing so, we have the opportunity to integrate those hidden aspects of ourselves. The night, like the unconscious mind, offers both danger and opportunity, a fear and transformation. To embrace the night is to embrace the unknown and the hidden forces that shape our lives. This psychological exploration of the night sets the stage for the next section, where we will look at how the cultural significance of the night continues to influence modern-day fears and anxieties. The ancient and modern beliefs about the night continue to shape how we experience darkness, both in our minds and in our world. And understanding these cultural impacts will deepen our understanding of the role the night plays in our psychological lives. The night has always held a complex and paradoxical place in human culture. On one hand, it is a space of rest, rejuvenation, and tranquility. On the other, it is a realm of fear, superstition, and the unknown. Over the centuries, our cultural relationship with the night has evolved, but it has never entirely freed itself from the primal fears that the darkness invokes. From childhood terrors of monsters lurking in the dark to modern media's endless portrayals of the night as a time of danger and supernatural chaos, the night remains a space where our deepest anxieties come alive. But why does the night continue to hold such a powerful grip on our imaginations, even in an era dominated by science, technology, and rationality? To understand this, we must first look at how ancient fears of the night were rooted in the unknown. For early humans, darkness was not merely the absence of light. It was a space where survival was uncertain. In the wild, nighttime brought dangers. Predators that roamed the earth under the cover of darkness, unfamiliar sounds that spurred anxiety, and the vulnerability of not being able to see or protect oneself. The fear of the dark, therefore, was an evolutionary necessity, one that kept early humans alert to potential threats. Over time, this fear became interwoven with the spiritual and the supernatural. As early societies began to build their mythologies and religious systems, the night became a space where gods and demons, the living and the dead, could interact. Darkness was the realm of both sacred rituals and terrifying unknowns, where cosmic forces held sway over the lives of mortals. The ancient association between darkness and the unknown has never truly dissipated. While we no longer face the same physical dangers as our ancestors did, the emotional and psychological impact of the night persists. In many ways, modern fears of the night are an extension of these ancient anxieties. The dark remains a space where we cannot fully see or understand what is hidden, a place that forces us to confront our limitations and vulnerabilities. Even with the advent of artificial lighting and technology, the darkness remains a symbol of everything that we cannot control, predict, or fully comprehend. This primal fear of the dark is often instilled in us from an early age. Childhood fears of monsters under the bed or in the closet are deeply rooted in the idea that darkness harbors unknown threats. These fears, though they may seem childish or irrational, speak to a deeper, unconscious anxiety about what exists beyond our understanding. As children, we are vulnerable, and the darkness serves as a reminder of that vulnerability. The night becomes a mirror for the unknowns in our own lives, reflecting our personal fears and uncertainties. Even as we grow older and our logical minds dismiss these childhood fears, the night retains its power as a space of existential discomfort. In modern media, the night is often portrayed as a time when these fears come alive, magnified by supernatural elements. Horror films, books, and television shows capitalize on the concept of the night as a space where the boundaries between the living and the dead are most porous, where evil can manifest itself most vividly. Classic examples like Nosferatu and The Exorcist use the darkness of night to create an atmosphere of dread and impending danger. In these films, the night is not just a physical setting, but a character in its own right, a force that shapes the events of the story. The night becomes a stage for cosmic struggles between good and evil, where the characters are forced to confront the darkest aspects of existence. In contemporary horror, the night is often used to explore not just supernatural fears, but the psychological terrors that lie hidden within the human mind. Films like It Follows, Hereditary, and The Witch blur the line between the external supernatural forces and the internal human fears that are brought to the surface by the night. These works tap into the long-held belief that the darkness conceals not only literal monsters, but also the darker, repressed aspects of the human psyche. What happens in the dark, in these stories, is not just an external threat, but a manifestation of internal conflict, guilt, and trauma. The night's association with fear has not only survived in fictional portrayals, but also in real-world anxieties. Despite our advances in science and technology, the night remains a time of heightened anxiety for many people. No matter how much we rationalize our fears, darkness often triggers a visceral, emotional response. Studies have shown that the absence of light can increase feelings of discomfort, disorientation, and vulnerability. For some, the night is a reminder of the inevitable march of time, when the day's activities are over, and the quiet, solitary hours stretch ahead. This sense of isolation can trigger existential anxiety, making the night a symbol of life's uncertainties and impermanence. In addition, the night is often linked with deeper, societal fears. Consider how urban legends, true crime stories, and even news reports frequently associate the night with violence, crime, and danger. The fear of the night becomes tied to collective fears about safety and security. This connection between darkness and fear is reinforced by the media, which frequently portrays night as the time when the most horrific events unfold. In these contexts, the night is a psychological space where society's worst anxieties are realized. It is where the breakdown of societal order becomes most apparent, and the idea that the darkness is a place where the rules no longer apply holds sway over our collective imagination. Yet, despite all this, the night is not just a source of fear, it is also a space of fascination and mystery. There is a reason that so many cultures throughout history have looked to the night with reverence, even as they feared it. The night represents a space where the mundane world falls away, and we are left to contemplate the mysteries of existence. In many ancient spiritual systems, the night was a time for deep reflection, meditation, and connection with the divine. The night was not just a time for darkness, but a portal to understanding the larger forces that shape the universe. In modern times, this duality between fear and reverence still exists. People often turn to the night for introspection, for spiritual practices, or even to confront their own personal shadows. As we have seen, the cultural fears of the night are deeply rooted in ancient beliefs and anxieties. They persist today, manifesting in a range of psychological, societal, and spiritual dimensions. From childhood fears to the horrors of modern media, the night continues to evoke primal emotions, reminding us of our vulnerability, our mortality, and our deepest uncertainties. Yet, even as we fear the darkness, we also continue to seek its secrets, finding in the night a space of reflection, transformation, and perhaps, in time, understanding. This exploration of cultural fears and anxieties surrounding the night sets the stage for the next chapter, where we will examine how the night's power continues to shape our modern world, not just in psychological terms, but in cultural and spiritual contexts as well. The night, once feared and revered, remains an essential force in human consciousness, continuing to guide and challenge us in ways we are only beginning to understand. The night has long been seen as more than just a time when the world falls into darkness. For ancient cultures, the night was a powerful symbol of transformation, a time when endings and new beginnings intertwined, and when the deepest, hidden aspects of the self could be brought to the surface. The darkness of the night was not something to be feared. Rather, it was a fertile ground for spiritual growth, introspection, and rebirth. From rites of passage to rituals of death and resurrection, the night played a central role in many ancient cultures as a time for deep personal transformation. It was a space where individuals could confront their shadows, undergo profound changes, and emerge renewed, ready to embrace a new chapter of life. In ancient Egypt, for example, the night was seen as a time when the soul could journey into the afterlife and undergo a process of spiritual purification and renewal. The nightly journey of the sun god Ra, as he travelled through the underworld, symbolize the cycle of death and rebirth. The night, with its hidden, mysterious qualities, was not an end but a necessary passage for transformation. Similarly, the ancient Greeks celebrated the idea of spiritual rebirth through darkness. Orphic mysteries, for instance, were secret rituals in which initiates would be guided through a symbolic death and rebirth, often occurring under the cover of night. This rite was seen as a way to transcend the limitations of the earthly self and connect with the divine. The association between night and personal transformation is not just restricted to ancient rituals. Throughout human history, the night has been a metaphor for the internal journey of self-discovery and growth. Darkness is not simply the absence of light, it is a space where we confront the unknown, both in the world around us and within ourselves. The night represents the unconscious mind, where hidden fears, desires, and unresolved conflicts reside. In psychological terms, it is akin to the process of shadow work, a term coined by Carl Jung to describe the process of confronting the darker, unacknowledged parts of the self. The night, in this sense, is a mirror for our innermost thoughts and emotions, a space where we are invited to explore what we normally avoid or suppress in the light of day. In many cultures, the night has been a time for introspection and self-reflection. It is in the silence of the night that we often come face to face with our deepest fears and desires. In spiritual traditions around the world, it is through this inner confrontation that true transformation occurs. The darkness, in this context, becomes a sacred space for the soul to shed its old patterns, much like a seed that must break open in the dark earth before it can grow. The potential for new beginnings arises from the willingness to journey into the unknown, to embrace the darkness that exists not only in the world around us, but within our own hearts and minds. One of the most universal symbols of transformation through the night is the cycle of death and rebirth. Many ancient cultures saw the night as a necessary passage for personal renewal, where the soul could undergo a process of spiritual cleansing. Death rituals, for example, were often performed at night as a way to honor the transition from life to death. In ancient Rome, for instance, the dead were believed to travel through the underworld during the night, where they would be judged and either reborn into the afterlife or cast into darkness. These rituals highlighted the belief that the night was not a final ending, but a transformative space that held the potential for renewal. Similarly, many rites of passage, which marked the transition from one stage of life to another, took place at night, symbolizing the crossing from one phase of existence to another. In modern times, the night continues to play a vital role in spiritual and psychological growth. While the rituals of the past may no longer be widely practiced, the symbolism of the night as a time for transformation has persisted in various spiritual traditions. For example, in the New Age movement, full moon rituals are seen as opportunities for emotional release and personal healing. The full moon, which illuminates the night sky, is regarded as a powerful symbol of spiritual illumination. During these rituals, participants often set intentions for personal transformation, letting go of old habits and inviting new opportunities for growth. In this way, the moon and the night continue to serve as powerful metaphors for the cycles of change that shape our lives. The psychological connection between the night and transformation also extends to modern practices of meditation and mindfulness. Many people turn to the stillness of the night for moments of quiet introspection, seeking clarity and insight into their inner lives. The silence and solitude that night brings offer the space needed to look inward, to confront unresolved emotional issues, and to gain a deeper understanding of the self. As people become more attuned to the rhythms of the natural world, the night has become a sacred time for personal renewal, a time when transformation can take root in the darkness and eventually emerge into the light. In this sense, the night becomes a powerful metaphor for the process of self-improvement and growth. Just as the moon waxes and wanes, so too do our personal journeys full of cycles of growth, release, and renewal. The darkness of the night is not something to avoid or fear, but a necessary part of the cycle of life, a space where change can occur, where the old must be released for the new to emerge. Transformation, whether on a personal or collective level, often begins in the shadows, where we must confront what is hidden in order to move forward. The night, with all its mysteries, remains an essential part of this process. The symbolism of the night as a time for transformation is deeply embedded in our collective consciousness. It is a theme that continues to influence modern spiritual practices, psychological growth, and artistic expression. Whether through ancient rituals or contemporary practices, the night remains a space of potential, where the forces of change and renewal can be harnessed to bring about personal and spiritual evolution. This exploration of the night as a stage for personal and collective transformation naturally transitions into the next section, where we will explore how these transformative aspects of the night continue to shape human creativity and expression. From art to literature to film, the night remains a central theme in our cultural narratives, inspiring the creative process and shaping the way we tell our stories. The darkness, once seen as a space of fear and uncertainty, is now recognized as a fertile ground for creation and inspiration. Throughout history, the night has been a wellspring of inspiration for artists, writers, and musicians. Its deep symbolism of mystery, transformation, and the unknown has provided a fertile ground for creativity, giving rise to some of the most iconic works of art. Whether in literature, visual arts, or music, the night has been portrayed not only as a time of darkness, but as a space where the veil between the conscious and unconscious is thinnest, allowing the creative spirit to flourish. For centuries, the moon, stars, and shadowy landscapes have evoked powerful emotions, shaping narratives that explore themes of death, love, fear, and the human experience in all its complexity. The night, far from being merely a backdrop for sleep or quiet, has become a muse, a source of inspiration for some of the most profound expressions of human creativity. The night's association with mystery and revelation has long made it a theme in literature, where writers use its symbolic power to explore the unknown. Shakespeare, for example, drew on the symbolism of the night to craft some of his most memorable works. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, the night is a realm of magic, mischief, and transformation. The moonlit forest serves as a space where the boundaries of reality and illusion blur, where lovers are transformed and misunderstandings are resolved. Shakespeare's use of night as a setting for both comedy and conflict highlights its role as a space where the usual rules of the day are suspended, and the unconscious mind takes precedence. Similarly, in Macbeth, the dark hours are used to evoke themes of ambition, guilt, and fate. The night, in this case, becomes a realm of moral ambiguity, where Macbeth's descent into murder and madness takes place under the cover of darkness, symbolizing the darkness within his own soul. Perhaps no writer has captured the Gothic allure of the night more powerfully than Edgar Allan Poe. In works like The Raven and The Telltale Heart, Poe uses night as a psychological space, a place where madness, grief, and guilt manifest. The midnight hour, the full moon, and the shadows in Poe's work are not merely settings, they are integral to the psychological drama that unfolds. In The Raven, the dark, quiet night becomes the perfect backdrop for the narrator's descent into despair and madness, as he seeks solace from the impossible longing for his lost Lenore. Poe's use of night taps into the ancient understanding of darkness as a time when the unconscious mind is most active, when emotions and fears surface without the restraint of daylight. In the realm of visual arts, the night has similarly served as a muse for some of the world's most famous painters. The moon, in particular, has been a powerful symbol in works ranging from Romanticism to modern art. One of the most famous examples of the moon as an artistic symbol is Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night. This painting, with its swirling, vivid sky and glowing moon, captures the emotional intensity and dreamlike quality of the night. Van Gogh himself was fascinated by the night, seeing it as a time of personal reflection and a way to access deeper truths. In his letters, he described the night as a place where the soul could find clarity and peace, a sentiment that resonates with the way many artists view darkness as a space for introspection and revelation. Similarly, the surrealist works of artists like Salvador Dalí use the night as a space where the boundaries of the physical world break down, allowing the unconscious mind to take center stage. In The Persistence of Memory, Dalí uses the night to evoke a sense of timelessness, where the familiar rules of reality no longer apply. The night, in Dalí's world, is a realm where dreams and reality coexist, where transformation is constant, and where the surreal becomes possible. This connection between the night and the subconscious mind is a thread that runs through much of modern art, where the darkness is not simply a setting but a metaphor for the unknown, the hidden, and the ever-changing nature of the human experience. Music, too, has long drawn on the themes of the night. From classical compositions to contemporary genres, the night has served as a muse for some of the most emotive and evocative music in history. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata, with its hauntingly slow, melancholic melody, evokes a sense of calm yet profound introspection. The title itself, Moonlight, draws on the moon's symbolism as a romantic, almost mystical force, suggesting that the night holds a kind of emotional truth that cannot be fully accessed in the light of day. In the world of modern music, bands like the Beatles, with songs like A Day in the Life, and artists such as Billie Holiday, with Strange Fruit, have used the night as a backdrop for exploring deep, emotional themes. The night in these songs is not merely a setting, it is an essential part of the mood, symbolizing the depths of human emotion, struggle, and change. The night's connection to the unconscious mind and transformation is not only a theme in high art but also deeply embedded in popular culture. Horror films, for example, regularly use the night as a space where characters confront their deepest fears, whether it's the monsters of the supernatural or the psychological horrors that reside within. Films like Nosferatu, Night of the Living Dead, and more recently, It Follows, all utilize the night to create tension, evoke fear, and explore what lurks in the dark corners of the human psyche. These films tap into the ancient association of the night with danger, mystery, and the unknown, but they also reflect the modern anxieties about the things we cannot see, understand, or control. In literature, film, and visual art, the night serves as a backdrop for exploring themes of love, loss, and existential uncertainty. It is a space where the deepest parts of the human experience come to the forefront, allowing creators to explore what we often suppress or deny in the light of day. The moon, stars, and darkness are symbols of transformation and possibility, and they remain a powerful inspiration for creative expression. From the Romantic poets to contemporary filmmakers, the night continues to be a central metaphor for change and self-discovery. The night's role as a muse in art and creativity also speaks to its deeper psychological significance. The night represents a space where transformation is possible, where the familiar can become strange, and where the unconscious mind can be explored. Whether it's the transformative power of dreams or the journey into the unknown, the night remains an essential part of the creative process, allowing artists to tap into deeper truths and explore the hidden corners of the human soul. This exploration of the night's role in creativity and art sets the stage for the next chapter, where we will look at how these themes of darkness and transformation continue to influence our modern worldview. From psychology to spirituality to culture, the night remains a symbol of growth, change, and the untapped potential that lies just beyond the surface of our consciousness. In the modern world, where technology often dominates and the rhythms of nature are obscured by urbanization, there is a powerful resurgence of interest in the ancient wisdom and rituals associated with the night. The night, once seen as a space for fear, superstition, and repression, is now being rediscovered and celebrated as a source of profound spiritual power, transformation, and connection. A growing movement, particularly within the New Age, neo-pagan, and occult communities, is rekindling the practices that were once suppressed by dominant religions and empires. This cultural reclamation of night beliefs is a direct response to the disconnection many feel from the natural world, and it is rooted in a desire to reconnect with the cycles of nature, the cosmos, and the deeper rhythms of existence. In ancient times, the night was seen as a sacred time, a space for reflection, healing, and divine connection. It was a time when the boundaries between the mortal world and the spiritual realm were thin, where rituals of death and rebirth were performed, and where transformation was possible. For centuries, these ancient night rituals were lost, erased, or hidden by the forces of empire and monotheism. But in the 21st century, there has been a revival, a cultural renaissance of the very practices that were once silenced. Modern individuals are turning back to the moon, the stars, and the darkness itself for guidance, spiritual growth, and a sense of grounding that cannot be found in the modern, technology-driven world. One of the most significant ways this resurgence is manifesting is through the celebration of the moon and the rituals associated with its cycles. Full moon ceremonies, lunar meditations, and moon-based astrology are being embraced by a wide range of people seeking a deeper connection to the cosmos. These rituals, which date back to ancient cultures, are seen as opportunities for spiritual renewal, reflection, and intention setting. For many, the full moon represents a time of peak energy, a moment when the forces of the universe are most aligned, making it the perfect time to release old patterns, manifest desires, and connect with higher spiritual energies. These ceremonies, often held in nature under the open sky, serve as a direct link to ancient practices that honored the moon as a divine force of transformation and illumination. In the neo-pagan and Wiccan communities, the moon's cycles continue to play a central role in spiritual rituals. The Sabbats, the 8 annual festivals that mark the turning of the wheel of the year, are often celebrated under the cover of night, with rituals that align with the lunar and solar cycles. These celebrations are designed to honor the natural world and the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. Whether it's the solstices, equinoxes, or the full moon, each phase of the year is seen as an opportunity for personal reflection, growth, and transformation. These practices are rooted in the ancient belief that the night is a sacred time, a space where we can connect with the divine, heal old wounds, and transform ourselves. The resurgence of night-based rituals is not just limited to spiritual communities. There is a broader cultural movement that emphasizes the importance of reconnecting with nature and the natural rhythms of life, something that has been lost in our increasingly technology-driven world. In a time when many people are disconnected from the cycles of the earth, working long hours under artificial light and surrounded by the noise of modern life, there is a growing desire to rediscover the grounding, transformative power of the natural world. Night rituals, which honor the dark, are seen as a way to counterbalance the pressures of modern life. They offer an opportunity to slow down, reflect, and find meaning in a world that often feels disconnected and fast-paced. Social movements that advocate for a return to natural cycles, such as environmental movements and efforts to reclaim indigenous practices, are also contributing to the cultural reclamation of night-based rituals. These movements emphasize the importance of living in harmony with the earth, honoring the rhythms of nature, and embracing the cycles of darkness and light as central to our spiritual well-being. The night, in this context, becomes a metaphor for reconnecting with the earth, honoring its cycles, and recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. As more people seek a deeper understanding of their place in the natural world, the practices that were once abandoned, rituals that honor the moon, the stars, and the night itself, are being embraced once again. This revival of ancient night rituals is not just about returning to the past, but about reclaiming a lost connection to the spiritual power that the night represents. In an era of increasing alienation from nature and the divine, people are turning to these rituals as a way to ground themselves, tap into deeper sources of wisdom, and heal from the emotional and spiritual wounds of modern life. The moon, the stars, and the darkness are no longer seen as symbols of fear, but as sources of strength, healing, and transformation. Moreover, this cultural shift is not just a personal one, it has a collective aspect as well. The resurgence of interest in moon ceremonies, lunar rituals, and night-based spiritual practices represents a collective yearning to reconnect with ancient wisdom that once shaped entire civilizations but was gradually erased or suppressed by more dominant worldviews. As individuals and communities increasingly turn to the night for guidance and transformation, they are also participating in a larger movement to reclaim the wisdom that has been hidden in the shadows of history. The growing interest in these practices reflects a collective shift towards spirituality that values personal experience, nature, and interconnectedness, rather than rigid dogma or institutionalized beliefs. Modern spiritual seekers are drawn to the night not just because of its symbolic power, but because it represents a return to something primal, something that resonates deeply within the human soul. It is a space where they can find meaning, healing, and connection in ways that are often lacking in the modern, materialistic world. This cultural reclamation of night beliefs is part of a larger movement that seeks to reconnect with the natural world and our spiritual heritage. As we continue to embrace the power of the night, we reclaim the ancient rituals, symbols, and wisdom that have been passed down through the ages, and we restore them to their rightful place in modern life. The cultural resurgence of the night's spiritual power sets the stage for our final section, where we will examine how these revived beliefs and practices continue to influence the modern worldview, shaping our collective understanding of the night and its role in the human experience. Through the lens of psychology, culture, and spirituality, we will explore how the night's mysteries continue to shape our lives, offering not only a space for transformation, but also a profound source of meaning and insight in the 21st century. In today's world, where information is overwhelming and constant connectivity is a fact of life, many people find themselves yearning for something deeper, something that cuts through the noise and offers a connection to meaning and truth. In the midst of a 24/7 culture, the night offers a rare space to step away from the chaos of the day and turn inward. The night, once feared for its darkness, is now seen as a sanctuary for reflection, solitude, and spiritual connection. It is in the quiet of the night that many modern seekers find the space to engage in meaningful personal growth, to reconnect with themselves, and to seek answers to life's deepest questions. As the modern search for meaning intensifies, the night stands as a powerful metaphor for a deeper journey into the self, inviting people to look beyond the surface and explore what truly matters. The night, with its solitude and stillness, provides an essential counterpoint to the busyness of daytime life. While the daytime is often filled with distractions, demands, and external stimuli, the night offers the space for introspection and mindfulness. In spiritual traditions around the world, the night has long been a time for meditation, prayer, and contemplation. These practices, once rooted in ancient belief systems, are now making a comeback as people increasingly turn to mindfulness practices to find clarity and peace in a world that is often overwhelming. Nighttime meditation, for example, is growing in popularity as a way to center oneself, clear the mind, and reconnect with inner truth. The quiet of the night provides the perfect backdrop for this kind of work, where distractions are minimal and the mind is more attuned to deeper insights. Journaling under the moonlight, too, has become a powerful practice for modern spiritual seekers. Many people use the night as a time to reflect on their day, their goals, and their personal growth. Writing by the soft light of the moon, or in the stillness of the night, creates a sacred, intimate space for self-discovery. The moon, long associated with intuition, mystery, and transformation, serves as a symbolic guide for this reflective process. It is during these quiet hours that people often find themselves tapping into their innermost thoughts, gaining insights into their desires, fears, and aspirations. The night offers a safe, nurturing environment to confront these hidden parts of the self and to work toward personal transformation. But the significance of the night extends beyond personal practices like meditation and journaling. The night is also increasingly being seen as a space for spiritual reconnection and deep, transformative practices. Many people are turning to the night for ritualistic ceremonies that honor the darkness as a time for rebirth and renewal. These rituals, inspired by ancient traditions, emphasize the moon's power to illuminate hidden truths and guide the spiritual journey. Whether it's performing a full moon ritual, practicing shadow work, or simply sitting in stillness under the stars, people are finding in the night a powerful ally in their search for meaning. The darkness, which was once associated with fear and uncertainty, has become a sacred space for healing and spiritual growth. In addition to its personal and spiritual significance, the night also serves as a metaphor for the broader search for meaning in life. The darkness of night mirrors the uncertainties and challenges we all face. Those moments when we are unsure of our path, when we feel lost, or when we must confront the unknown. The night has always symbolized the unknown, a space where mysteries are revealed and transformation is possible. In this way, the night's symbolism continues to resonate deeply in our modern search for meaning. As individuals, we are often called to face the unknown, whether it's navigating a difficult life transition, making a significant decision, or simply grappling with our place in the world. Just as the night offers a space for introspection, it also offers a space where answers may emerge, often when we least expect them. The psychological significance of the night is deeply tied to our need for rest, rejuvenation, and self-discovery. Just as we rest our bodies at night, the soul also seeks a kind of rest, a retreat from the noise of the world. This rest, however, is not merely about sleep. It is about giving the mind and spirit the opportunity to reflect, heal, and grow. The quiet of the night allows us to reconnect with our truest selves, free from the distractions and pressures of the waking world. For many, this time of night offers a form of solace that cannot be found in the busyness of the day. It is a time to face our deepest fears, desires, and reflections, and to understand that darkness can be a place of deep transformation rather than just something to be feared. The connection between the night and personal transformation is also echoed in the psychological theory of Carl Jung. Jung often emphasized the importance of shadow work, the process of confronting and integrating the darker, repressed parts of ourselves. The night, in this context, becomes a powerful metaphor for the unconscious mind, a space where our shadows dwell. Just as we navigate the darkness of the night, so too must we navigate the darkness within ourselves. In this sense, the night becomes a crucial part of the psychological journey towards self-actualization, offering the opportunity to confront the unconscious forces that shape our lives. This psychological and spiritual relevance of the night has never been more important than it is today. In an age where we are constantly connected to information and technology, many people are yearning for ways to reconnect with themselves and find meaning beyond the digital world. The night, with its timeless symbolism of mystery, transformation, and introspection, offers a space to reclaim something deeply human, to return to the rhythms of nature, to the rhythms of the soul. As modern spirituality embraces the power of the night, we see how ancient practices are being reimagined for the contemporary world, offering a path toward deeper connection, self-awareness, and spiritual fulfillment. The search for meaning, facilitated by the quiet, introspective power of the night, is not just a personal journey, it is also a collective one. As we collectively move through an era of technological advancement and increasing global interconnectedness, the need to reconnect with nature, with the cycles of the earth, and with our own inner worlds is becoming more urgent. The night, as a symbol of this connection, offers a deep reservoir of meaning, one that transcends the distractions and superficiality of modern life. This exploration of the night's psychological and spiritual relevance naturally leads us into the next section, where we will synthesize the insights we've gained throughout this journey. By examining the cultural, psychological, and spiritual significance of the night, we can better understand how this ancient, powerful symbol continues to shape our modern worldview and guide us toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. The night has remained a constant throughout the course of human history, influencing every aspect of our cultural, spiritual, and creative lives. Despite the efforts of empires, religions, and modern ideologies to suppress or redefine it, the night has endured, persistently carving its place in human consciousness. From the ancient reverence for darkness as a space of divine power and transformation to its role in modern mindfulness practices, the night continues to serve as a symbol of the unknown, the mysterious, and the potential for renewal. In this final reflection on the night's enduring influence, we look back at how the lessons learned from the night have shaped human culture and spirituality, offering timeless wisdom that still resonates today. For millennia, the night has been synonymous with the unconscious, the hidden, and the transformative forces of the universe. In ancient cultures, night rituals and spiritual practices were not simply about worshipping the dark, but about using it as a space for introspection, rebirth, and communion with the divine. These ancient night beliefs, though often suppressed by powerful forces, have remained embedded in human culture through folklore, mythology, and art. The moon, the stars, and the darkness itself have been continually invoked as symbols of not only cosmic mystery, but also of personal and collective growth. Even in societies that sought to extinguish the night's spiritual power, remnants of these beliefs continue to find their way into our cultural stories, artistic expression, and spiritual practices. The persistence of night rituals and symbols throughout history speaks to something deeply ingrained in the human psyche. From the early civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt to the Greeks, Romans, and the indigenous peoples of every continent, the night was not a time of evil or destruction, but of profound change and connection. The ancient reverence for the night as a space for spiritual transformation through rituals of death and rebirth, through the cycles of the moon, through the quiet of the night's solitude, remains alive in modern spiritual practices. Wicca, neo-paganism, and even the rise of New Age practices have seen a revival of these ancient beliefs, as people once again look to the night as a source of strength, guidance, and self-transformation. Even in modern culture, the night continues to shape our artistic expression. From literature to cinema, music to visual arts, the night remains a muse, a space where human creativity can flourish. In stories of horror and fantasy, the night is often the backdrop against which heroes confront their fears, uncover hidden truths, and embark on transformative journeys. In poetry and music, the night evokes deep emotions, from love and longing to sorrow and introspection. The night is not just a passive setting in these works, it is an active force that shapes the narrative, guiding characters through challenges and revealing the inner workings of their psyches. Beyond its symbolic and creative influence, the night has also retained a psychological relevance in our lives. The solitude of the night offers a rare opportunity to turn inward, to face the unconscious aspects of ourselves that we may otherwise avoid. Whether through meditation, journaling, or simply sitting in the stillness of the night, many people today use the night as a space for self-reflection, healing, and personal growth. The night, once a time of external fear, has transformed into a sanctuary of self-discovery, where people confront their inner shadows and seek spiritual renewal. The enduring presence of the night in human culture also points to a deeper truth about the human condition. The night symbolizes the perpetual cycle of creation and destruction, birth and death, and the ongoing quest for understanding in a complex world. The night is a space of endings, where the old must be shed to make way for the new, but it is also a space of beginnings, where transformation and renewal are possible. It is in the darkness that we often find the seeds of growth, where the mysteries of the universe are revealed, and where we confront the challenges of life's great questions. The night teaches us that, even in the darkest moments, there is the potential for light, for understanding, and for spiritual growth. As we look to the future, the night remains a powerful symbol of the human quest for meaning. In an age of technology, globalization, and constant connectivity, many people find themselves disconnected from the natural world and their inner selves. Yet, even in this modern world, the night continues to call to us, offering a space for introspection, healing, and transformation. The growing interest in practices like mindfulness, full moon rituals, and nature-based spirituality reflects a collective desire to reconnect with the ancient wisdom of the night. As we reclaim this wisdom, we are reminded that the night is not merely a time of darkness, it is a space of potential, where the mysteries of the universe and the depths of the soul can be explored and understood. The night, in all its mystery, continues to shape the way we live, think, and create. It serves as both a mirror and a guide, a space where we confront our deepest fears and desires, and where we have the opportunity to transform ourselves. As we continue to navigate the complexities of modern life, the night remains a timeless source of inspiration, wisdom, and renewal. Its enduring influence on human culture and spirituality is a testament to its central role in the human experience, a reminder that, in the darkest hours, there is always the potential for light. This reflection on the night's enduring cultural and spiritual influence naturally leads to the conclusion of our journey. We have traced the night's role in ancient civilizations, its symbolic power in modern psychology, and its creative force in art and culture. As we synthesize these insights, we are left with a deeper understanding of how the night has shaped, and continues to shape, our worldview, offering not only a space for introspection and transformation, but also a profound connection to the cosmos, to the mysteries of existence, and to the depths of the human soul. The night, in all its mystery and power, remains an eternal source of meaning, a symbol of our continuous journey toward understanding, and a guiding light in our quest for spiritual truth. The night has always captivated human imagination. It is not merely the absence of light, nor just the opposite of day. It is a symbol of the unknown, the mysterious, and the infinite. The eternal nature of the night transcends its physical presence in the sky, holding a deeper significance in human life. A metaphor for everything hidden, everything that lies beyond our comprehension. From the ancient myths of the gods who rule the night to the modern-day fascination with the cosmic unknown, the night has been a central theme in our quest for meaning, truth, and connection to the greater universe. But what lies beyond the night? Is it merely a transition into the day, or does it offer insights into the mysteries of existence that we have yet to explore? The night has always represented the frontier of the unknown. For our ancient ancestors, darkness was a vast, uncharted territory, a place where danger, the supernatural, and the divine could converge. In these early human societies, the night was a time of both fear and reverence. Darkness symbolized the unknown aspects of life, death, and the afterlife, and it was during the night that many ancient rituals and rites of passage were performed. These rituals often invoke transformation, marking the passage from one state of being to another. The night, therefore, was not simply an end to the day, but a space in which something new could be born, whether through spiritual rebirth, personal transformation, or the quest for hidden wisdom. Consider the ancient Egyptian belief in the goddess Nuit, who embodied the night sky. Nuit was the sky that stretched above the earth, embracing all things, offering shelter to the stars, and symbolizing the eternal cycle of death and rebirth. Nuit's myth suggests that the night is not only a space of potential, but it is also a reflection of the infinite, an endless, cosmic expanse where transformation occurs, where life and death exist in perpetual balance. In this way, the night serves as a metaphor for the continuous flow of existence itself, endless, cyclical, and ever-changing. It is the space where the known and the unknown, the physical and the spiritual, collide and merge. Modern philosophy, too, draws on the symbolism of the night as a portal to the unknown. In existential thought, the night is often used as a metaphor for the existential journey, a journey into the hidden aspects of the self, into the unknown territories of human consciousness. As philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre once put it, the human experience is marked by the nothingness that lies beyond the familiar. The night, as a symbol of this nothingness, mirrors the human confrontation with the void, with the unknowable aspects of existence. It is in this space where the certainty of the day fades into the ambiguity of the dark that we are forced to grapple with life's most profound questions. What is our purpose? What happens after death? What lies beyond the limits of our perception? The night, in this sense, is not just a metaphor for our internal conflicts, but a reflection of the cosmic questions that we will likely never fully answer. Yet, despite its association with mystery and uncertainty, the night has also been seen as a time of discovery. In many spiritual traditions, darkness is not just the absence of light, but the space where divine illumination occurs. It is the moment when we let go of the distractions and illusions of the day and turn inward to discover deeper truths. The moon, long associated with intuition, cycles, and transformation, serves as a guide in this journey. As the moon reflects the sun's light, so too does the night allow us to reflect on the light of our own inner wisdom, bringing clarity in times of darkness. The darkness is not something to fear, but a space where we can encounter new revelations, shed old fears, and emerge with renewed understanding. The fascination with the night's mysteries extends beyond the individual into the collective consciousness. As humans, we have long sought to understand what lies beyond the confines of our everyday experience. The night, with its vastness and uncertainty, offers a unique space to confront the unknown not just as individuals but as a species. From ancient astronomical observations to the modern pursuit of space exploration, the night sky has been our window into the cosmos, urging us to seek out the mysteries of existence. Our attempts to peer into the stars, to understand the universe, are not just intellectual pursuits, they are deeply spiritual. The night, in this sense, is both the source of our questions and the key to our answers. It compels us to reach beyond the familiar and embrace the unknown. Even in today's world, where science and technology have expanded our understanding of the universe, the night still holds profound significance. It is during the night that many modern spiritual practices take root, whether in meditation, stargazing, or nocturnal rituals, that people seek not just rest, but deeper understanding. The night is increasingly seen as a time to reconnect with the earth and the cosmos, to explore ancient wisdom, and to seek clarity away from the distractions of modern life. It is a space for contemplation and introspection, allowing individuals to access deeper layers of consciousness and reflect on their place in the larger universe. So, what lies beyond the night? The night itself, it seems, holds the key to this question. It is a space where the boundaries between the known and the unknown dissolve, offering us a glimpse into something larger than ourselves. Whether through personal reflection, spiritual awakening, or the collective search for cosmic understanding, the night continues to guide us toward greater knowledge and connection. As we seek answers to life's deepest questions, we must remember that the night, with all its mysteries and potential, holds more than just darkness. It holds the wisdom of the ages, the transformative power of the unknown, and the eternal quest for truth. The night, like the cosmos itself, is infinite in its possibilities. As we stand at the crossroads of ancient wisdom and modern discovery, the night continues to shape our understanding of the world and our place within it. From ancient beliefs that revered the night as a divine space of transformation and rebirth to its role in contemporary spiritual practices, the night has always been a central part of the human experience. It is more than just the end of the day, it is a space of introspection, renewal, and connection to the unknown. The lessons learned from the night about transformation, introspection, and the pursuit of hidden knowledge are as relevant today as they were in ancient times. The night continues to inspire creative expression, spiritual growth, and the search for truth, offering a refuge from the chaos of modern life and a guide to understanding the deeper mysteries of existence. The moon, the stars, and the darkness itself hold profound symbolic power, serving as beacons of light in times of uncertainty and mystery. As we continue to look to the stars, to the moon, and to the night sky, we ask, what forgotten wisdom still lingers in the shadows, waiting to guide us? The night, with its infinite depths, offers us the opportunity to reconnect with something ancient, something timeless, and something deeply human. The mysteries of the night are not just for the dreamers, the poets, or the mystics, they are for all of us. The night is a universal call to explore, to seek, and to transform. In the darkness, we find not only the unknown, but the potential to unlock the deepest truths of who we are and what we seek. Thus, as we move forward, we continue to embrace the night not as something to be feared, but as a space to be explored, a journey to be undertaken, and a mystery that will forever guide us on our quest for meaning, connection, and understanding.